was in Florida, they changed it.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to the January 16th Board of Supervisors meeting here in Lower Providence Township. Could you please all join me and stand to pledge allegiance to the flag?
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Jeannie, could you take the roll call, please?
Mrs. Ekman?
Here.
Mr. Sorgini?
Here.
Mr. Duffy is absent. Mr. Thomas?
Here.
Ms. Zimmerman?
Thank you. We just have one housekeeping item. The board held an executive session related to personnel matters, and that was only one this past week. With that, we'll move on to our first item of our agenda. That would be the consent agenda. And can I have a motion to accept the consent agenda?
Make that motion?
We have a second?
Second.
Any questions on that motion? No questions. Call for the vote. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, motion passed. Moving along. Item 2, we have presentation this evening. This is a presentation of Basic Emergency Management Certification from the Pennsylvania Emergency Management Agency, PEMA, to Sergeant Keith Gordon, who is our Deputy Emergency Management Coordinator. Bud, can you help us out here?
I'd ask Sergeant Gordon and Tom Piatek from the Montgomery County Department of Public Safety, who will actually be making the presentation this evening, to join me at the front of the room. Okay.
As you're aware, emergency management in the Commonwealth actually starts at the local level. As PEMA and the Commonwealth had decided, they said that there's a vested interest for the local municipality to kind of have control over the task associated with emergency management. As a result of that, the body, the government, local government, has assigned a coordinator for emergency management as well as a deputy coordinator, in this case, Keith Gordon. One of the things PEMA does is they look and they identify coursework to be associated with this, to identify emergency operation plans, duties, and responsibilities, and ask people to voluntarily go through that piece, especially if you're a deputy coordinator. Keith has taken that commitment and began that process to receive basic level certification through PEMA's list of coursework of at least 30 hours minimum of things he's needed to achieve by testing out of, as well as I need to accommodate him in terms of what he's done with Montgomery County, attending additional training with other emergency management coordinators. What this accomplishes is a commitment to not just Lower Providence, but Montgomery County in networking with other emergency management coordinators to look at operational plans, to look at the bigger picture of things besides the first response. So on behalf of the Pennsylvania Emergency Management Agency and Montgomery County Department of Public Safety, we would like to award Keith with his basic level certification from PEMA. Congratulations.
Tom, thank you very much for those kind words. I'd like to echo Tom's sentiments, particularly as far as the commitment that's necessary to attain this distinction. Keith has been our Deputy Emergency Management Coordinator since 2005, and he brings a very, very broad skill set to us. Keith also serves as the Fire Chief in Hatboro, and with those skills and with that background, and now with this certification, 30 hours doesn't sound like much, but I've seen the certificates and I've seen some of the coursework, and those 30 hours are very, very long hours. I appreciate Keith setting the goal to achieve this distinction, working towards it, and accomplishing it. And Lower Providence Township is better for it, and we're better for having you as our Deputy Emergency Management Coordinator. Thanks, Keith.
Thank you.
Just thanks. That's all. Thank you.
Thanks, Keith. Congratulations.
Thank you.
Okay, moving on to item 3 for this evening, that would be our new business. Rich is going to handle this one, but we have a authorization to execute an agreement with Huff and Associates for 2013 recycling grant application. Rich?
Thank you. Huff Associates has given us another proposal. They do our grant application for the recycling every year. Their proposal this year, if we take the 2% discount, is $8,820. If we pay it by the end of January, which I would recommend that we do. If not, they have requested 2 payments of $4,500 on January the 31st and $4,500 on July 31st. Generally, Huff and Associates is able to procure at least $50,000 associated with these grants. Oh, and there is Tom.
Good to see you.
Good to see you.
Thanks for coming.
We have a slide, Bill, if you put that up, that summarizes the last 4 years, and it does show, with a little help here, the first column is the residential tonnage, and the second column is the commercial tonnage. And if you see, it's generally trended up. We did have a little bit of a drop in 2011 compared to 10, but the numbers, I guess not all of 2009 is showing there. We went from 65 to 83, 79 up to 90, so you'll be getting that in probably the fall of this year. Of course, after the state retains their 40%. That's what they've been doing.
DEP percentage? you
DEP,
say?
yes, has cut back on all the grants by that amount. You'll notice that each additional ton of recycling, whether it's commercial or residential, is worth $42.55 to the municipality. So keep promoting the recycling. Go out there and make sure they're all doing it. And we will try to do a very good job of collecting the data, both from the business community and trying to solicit whatever we can from residential places that aren't handled by the hauler. Any questions from the board? My pleasure to work with you. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, so with that, I have a motion to authorize the agreement with Huff and Associates for our 2013 recycling grant application.
Yeah, that motion.
Do I have a second?
Second.
Motion and a second. Are there any questions on that?
Should we say in there to be paid by the end of January to secure the associated discount?
You may do that.
Is it necessary to include that in there, or can we just pay it in?
I could just pay it.
Okay, sounds good.
Good idea, Jason. Okay, so we have a motion and a second. All those in favor, send by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Okay, moving on to item 3B. Thank you. Next up, we have consideration of a school resource officer agreement with Methacton School District Board of School Directors for the continuation of a school resource officer program based at Methacton High School. Bud.
Thank you, Ms. Seckman. The board has before it for its consideration an agreement with the Methacton Board of School Directors for the continuation of the school resource officer program based at the Methacton High School. As you're aware, this is a program that was initiated in February of 2011 under a 3-year agreement in which the school district is responsible for 100% of the cost of the police officer assigned to the program based at the high school. That agreement is set to expire January 31st of 2014. We're respectfully requesting that the board approve this agreement for another 3-year term to continue through January 31st, 2017. I've spoken with the superintendent of schools, and the Methacton School Board will consider this agreement next Tuesday night at their meeting, January 21st.
Okay, excellent. Thank you, Bud. And I see there's a couple minor little additions that have been added to this current
Correct.
version.
Mrs. Seckman, based on our experience over the last 3 years and anticipating several issues that didn't arise but could have arisen, we wanted to address those in the agreement. If you like, I could go through what those changes are. They're relatively minor. The first is with respect to the termination of the agreement. I had a concern where their fiscal year is different than our fiscal year, so I didn't want a situation in 2016 where we were budgeting for our fiscal year 2017 and they came back to us after we had already budgeted to have that police officer paid for by Methacton School District, and they come to us after we've adopted a budget with the expectation that they would continue the program, and they would say, no, we don't want to continue the program, and then we're on the hook for having the police officer. We're assuming that cost. So I requested of the superintendent that either party provide the other party with 180 days notice. So let's assume that they were not going to continue the program after 2017. They would have to notify us in 2016 prior to the beginning of our budget process so that we would know to not incorporate that into our budget. As far as the consideration, our initial agreement called for any overtime cost to be billed at the township fee schedule. Essentially what that did was it deterred the school district from requesting our police officers at certain after-school activities and nighttime activities. And what we would do to accommodate the officers' presence, because obviously there's a benefit to us as a community for the officers to be present there, we would split the officers' shifts, or we would have them alter their shifts to accommodate their attendance at the activities. What that would do is remove the officers from the schools during the day, which is the intention. So this agreement provides for the officers being compensated at their hourly overtime rate under the collective bargaining agreement, which is significantly less than the township fee schedule rate. So we hope that that will permit the officers to participate in more after-school activities while also being present during the school day. And then finally, time and place of performance, Section 6, that just had to do with putting into writing some practices that we had in place over the last 3 years, so that, you know, if the people who are involved in the program aren't around in the next 3 years, there's a clear delineation of what the responsibilities are and what the expectations are of the program.
Okay, excellent. Thank you, Bud. We have our representative from the school board in the audience. Do you have anything to say, Kathleen? Thank you for joining us. No. The feedback we've gotten is this program has been very beneficial, and so we appreciate the school board working with our township police to improve our schools and the safety and education in the school. So thanks for coming. Okay, with that, do we have a motion to consider that agreement?
I'll make a motion that we authorize the township to enter into the school resource officer agreement.
Okay, do we have a second?
Okay. Second.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. Are there any other questions on this?
Just a couple comments I'd like to make. I've spoken in a very positive way about this program before and want to again this evening. The School Resource Officer program is truly exceptional. The two officers that are assigned to the schools right now, Officer Mike Nastasi and Officer Mark Stead, are phenomenal police officers. At face value, this certainly benefits our schools and our community by making them safer. But as Colleen mentioned a few minutes ago, there's also an educational component to the program as well, whereby the officers help to educate the students about all different aspects of safety. But then beyond that, there's a true benefit to our community in the way that students come to proactively know a police officer. Officers Stead and Nastasi are a routine and regular presence in the schools. They're pretty much rock stars in the school, and Chief Carroll knows that too. When he comes in, he's welcomed like a rock star too. And it's phenomenal to see the relationships that the officers are able to build in a positive way with students and with families in this community. And it's truly an exceptional partnership between two local organs of government that have brought this about, and it is phenomenally positive and beneficial to everyone in the community. This is one of those rare occasions, probably 2 or 3 in my time on the board, where I will abstain from the vote this evening, not because I don't support the program, I certainly do and would love to vote for it, but given my professional position, I think it's best to not vote on this one because I am a principal in the school. But it is a phenomenal program, and I'm very glad to see it continuing forward.
Thank you, Jason. Well said. Okay, with that, I'll call for the vote. All those in favor, consent by saying aye, please. Aye. Opposed? None, and
I
one
abstain.
abstention. Okay. All right, moving on to new business item 3C. This would be authorization to execute equipment rental contract with James R. Kenny Excavating and Paving. And Rich, you're going to fill us in on that.
Thank you, Chairwoman Ekman. This is the equipment rental agreement that we presented to the board a couple of meetings ago. We bid this out, and that's been our practice to bid this out. And we generally bid it out as a 2-year contract. However, the amount that we budget for this is below the amount that would require a bid. We only budget $18,250, which does not require, under the second-class township code, that we bid it. But we did anyways. We advertised it. We got one bid, and that was from Mr. Kenny. At the time, Mr. Kenny, and we forewarned Mike Sheridan of this possibility, who was our solicitor at the time, was having difficulty obtaining a performance bond. Why? Because these contracts are based upon an as-needed hourly basis, and the township determines what the as-needed basis is. So it's become increasingly difficult for contractors to acquire performance bonds for smaller contracts. After Mr. Kenny contacted 3 performance bond companies, he was told by all 3, although in the past they had given him performance bonds for the township, that they wouldn't be able to give him a performance bond this year. Accordingly, before Mr. Sheridan left, I talked to him about it. He opined at the time that the township had already bid it, therefore we had satisfied the notice requirements, i.e. the requirement that you acquire 3 price quotes for anything under $18,900. And he said that what we ought to do, as opposed to having a 2-year contract, have a 1-year contract with Mr. Kenny. And that would certainly keep it under the bid limit. Subsequently, I also discussed it with John Rice, and John has indicated that he's in agreement with that, and we've provided to John and to the board a copy of the equipment rental contract, and what we are seeking tonight is authorization to execute the equipment rental agreement.
Okay, thank you, Rich. All right, do I have any, a motion on the floor to authorize that one-year equipment rental contract?
You have a motion to authorize the one-year equipment rental contract?
I have a motion, do I have a second?
Second?
Motion and a second, are there any questions on that?
Yeah, I have a question, Rich. Maybe I just didn't follow you through that. So the bid was $18,250 for the 2 years?
No, yeah, well, no, you're correct. The bid would have been a 2-year agreement, but what we're proposing tonight is a 1-year agreement, so that it does not exceed $18,900. If it was a bid, and it was a bid, and if they had posted a performance bond, we would have said, okay, it's a 2-year agreement. But they couldn't post the performance bond, so we're proposing a 1-year agreement, which gets them under the bid limit. They've satisfied the 3-quote limit, okay, so you can award the contract.
So it's $18,250 per year, and we're only going for 1 year.
Yep.
Thank you. Sorry.
Okay, so any other questions? If no other questions, I'll call for the vote. All those in favor, consent by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? No, the ayes have it. Okay, item 3D, discussion and consideration of amended preliminary final plan approval resolution for Land Development Plan 11-02, Horizon Services Incorporated, and 900 Adams Avenue. And John Rice, our new solicitor, is going to handle that one.
Okay.
You ready, John?
Yeah, oh, yeah. It's the only thing I have to do here on the agenda.
Oh, wow.
What's in front of you is a revised and amended resolution of resolution number 1362, which the board adopted in June of 2013. That was a preliminary final plan approval resolution for Horizon Services, Inc. That approval provided series of conditions and approval for 2,000 square feet of office space, 13,000 square feet of warehouse, some parking, other driveways, and other site improvements. So since then, the applicant has decided to phase in that development, and what you have in front of you tonight is a amending resolution which would permit the applicant to phase in the construction that was approved under the previous resolution. And the new resolution, if you look on the second page, 2K, sets forth how the applicant proposes to phase in this project. And it's broken up into a fair amount of public improvements or on-site improvements in Phase 1, and then additional improvements in Phase 2. I've discussed this with Rich Gestrick. It's been discussed with Tim Woodrow, and the only issue that I have, and I think Tim has, is just phasing in a project and how much of the financial security do you put up with Phase 1 so it's sufficient that you're not left hanging in Phase 2. I mean, there may be things that he has under Phase 2 that ought to be built in Phase 1, just so there's consistency with the overall project. So the resolution that you have in front of you with this phasing is fine. I would just modify paragraph 2D to address that concern. In paragraph 2D, it'd be my recommendation that that should read, posting of financial security for Phase 1 and Phase 2 in sufficient amounts to be determined by the township engineer, and execution of a financial security and improvement construction agreement in a form and manner to be approved by the township solicitor prior to recording of plans. We don't have a escrow tabulation. We don't know what goes with what phase, so that gives, I think, Tim primarily the discretion to maybe post what's part of Phase 2 during Phase 1, so that the township's covered with that. So with that change to 2D in the resolution, I suggested the board adopt, unless there's other problems.
Well, we do have a representative from the developer, right, Chambers Associates?
Yes. I'm Joe Hanna, President of Chambers Associates. We had met with staff to discuss this back in November and December, and that was one item that we hadn't resolved at the time. I spoke to Mr. Geiger, who's the owner of Horizon Services, and I think to simplify things, basically he doesn't want to build the building right now. So, so we're fine with putting in the improvements or escrowing all the site improvements. There will just be portions of it that we don't build right now just because they would be impacted by the construction of the building. For instance, sidewalk around the building and stuff like that. So I don't think we need to do two separate agreements for phasing. We'll just escrow all the site improvements up front. It'll just be a period of time of when we get to those and when we do the building. That should simplify the
Yeah,
recording.
this would not be two separate agreements.
Right,
This would
okay.
be one agreement and whatever you work out with it.
Right, but I'm
Township
saying, as
engineer.
far as posting the escrow, we'll post the escrow
entire-
for all the improvements, right?
So you have no time frame of when you think that the whole project would be completed?
Well,
then?
he wants to get the parking started immediately, which
Okay.
is why we started down this road. He's not sure when he'll do the building. He's pretty sure he'll do it within the next 5 years, but he has more of a parking need right now than the building need.
And John, you don't have any, you're okay with that then?
Yeah, I'm
With that recommendation?
I'm fine, but I would still have the resolution
Revised.
revised as I stated.
Okay.
And that covers that situation too.
Okay. That works for you, John?
Yes.
Joe, excuse me. Okay, then, with that addition, do we have a motion to accept this resolution?
Mrs. Ekman,
Yes.
might we want to first act on the requested waiver?
Oh,
Just snuck in there down at the bottom.
where'd that come from, John?
Paragraph 3,
Yes.
that's already been approved, right?
3A, was that already approved?
That was,
From the first one.
From the
Let's-
first
let's
one.
see.
Oh, it's just duplicated onto this one?
yeah, it's the same, it's
Yeah,
the same waiver.
It is.
Okay.
Right.
Yeah, we granted that back in the
So the
original.
only, the only change is just the phasing.
Okay.
And then the change to the language involving financial security. So otherwise, we're good to go with that.
In that case, I'll make the motion.
Thank you, Jill. Okay, so we have a motion, do we have a second?
Second.
Motion and second, are there any further questions then?
Do we want to wait until we get the drafted changes before we actually vote on passing it? Or are we comfortable with the way it's been explained has to be put into print?
Which drafted changes?
The ones
ones
that
you
you
just
just mentioned.
suggested.
2D? I can read them again, I haven't written
No,
them.
you've already got them written? Okay. No.
I mean, I'm fine with you. It's
It
a
was
pretty
just a
simple.
question whether or not you wanted to see it as drafted as before we vote on it, to see the completed resolution.
Should the motion be motion as amended?
I believe that would be appropriate.
Well, the motion is to approve what's in your book with the revision to
What you suggest.
change to section D as stated by the solicitor.
Is that the motion you made?
That's exactly what it meant.
In that case,
That's what
yeah.
I thought it was.
Okay.
And seconded.
You're okay with that?
Yeah.
All right,
Okay.
excellent.
That's-
Okay, so we have a motion
little
and second
sketchy.
on that. Any further questions? All right, I'll call for the vote. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? None? Motion granted. Thank you. Okay, moving on. The last item of new business, 3E. That would be
I mean, I wrote it out.
authorization to execute license agreement with digital data for GIS updates. And Rich, you're going to handle this one, too.
Sure am. Thank you. Bill Roth and Ryan Fazio are both working with the Montgomery County folks, and what they're doing is updating our GIS system. As part of that update, they would like to update the county tax parcel data and property owner information as well. In order to get that digital information from the county, Montgomery County has a digital data license agreement. And I reviewed the agreement, sent a copy of it to Mr. Rice as well. There's no costs associated with the agreement. There just are probably the most stringent requirement in the entire agreement is that we have to be careful that we don't allow the base map data to be downloaded and utilized by another user. So aside from that, I saw no real reason not to authorize the execution of this agreement.
Is this typical, Bill? Have we done this before?
Yes, under the two former community development directors, it had been done before. And
Okay.
typically, we get county updates at least once a year, and it's typically in the beginning of the year that we try to put the updated data in.
Excellent. Okay, then I'd like to entertain a motion on the floor to execute the license agreement with Digital Data for update of our GIS system.
Yeah, that motion.
Thank you, Dawn. I have a motion. I have a second.
Second?
Motion and second. Any questions on that motion? No questions. I'll call for the vote. All those in favor, consent by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? None? Motion carries. Okay. We're getting there. Not sure if anybody noticed, but there's one slight change to our agendas and how we're doing things. I asked Denise to add an item of announcements so that we can advise residents as to what the upcoming meetings are in the township, and remind the board members too. I find it helpful. So coming up in the next 2 weeks, we have a Library Board of Trustees meeting on January 20th at 7. Planning Commission meeting January 22nd at 7. That's here at the Township Building. And a Zoning Hearing Board meeting on the 23rd at 7. And Rich, I guess there's only one item now on that Zoning Hearing Board agenda?
That is correct. There were two items. I think, well, actually, I told Tom. Tom is fully aware of it when he was out in the lobby. The Car Vision application is being extended till your meeting in February. The only item that remains on the zoning hearing board will be the Fifth Avenue application.
Okay. Thank you, Rich. Okay, with that, we'll move on to comments and other business. Do we have any comments from board members? Nothing?
Not tonight.
In the past week, or 2 weeks actually, we had 2 business development committee meetings. Jill, you want to give a 10-second summary of that?
At the first meeting, we met to discuss the YMCA project with the staff, Colleen and I. And then at the second meeting, we did meet with a representative from the YMCA, and we presented several different properties to him for his consideration. And we have had some feedback that there is some interest in 1 or 2 pieces of the properties that we have presented to him. So that's in the works right now, and we will continue to keep on top of this and to see where we can go with this. Thank you.
Thank you, Jill. Let's see, what else did we have? Oh, we also had our bi-weekly Arcola Bridge replacement meetings. Rich, that's good news. You want to give that good news, don't you? Update.
It looks as if all the right-of-way acquisitions are being properly acquired in time. There was one new property, apparently one of the properties did turn over just recently. And we did get that information over to the county. So that probably will not hold up the process. If that is the case, they're looking at bidding it sometime in June of this year. So that's very, very good news, because originally it was anticipated it wouldn't be until 2015. In addition to that, as of Christmas, the automatic red light system has been completely installed, beginning at the intersection of Germantown Pike all the way, and Ridge, all the way into Collegeville, which affects 5 intersections, and the chief can correct me if I'm wrong, because he is the expert on this system.
I'm not sure about the expert, but I just wanted to add that our officers have been monitoring it since last Wednesday daily during the rush hour from 4:15 until 7, and the backups now are going to about Cross Keys Road, and it's about 7 minutes to get across the bridge. We still do have backups, but we have seen an improvement over the last 7 days or so. We'll continue to monitor, and if we're able to get PennDOT to tweak it a little more, but we have seen an improvement. So the investment on PennDOT's part and the advocacy of Senator Rafferty and Representative Burb to get this done in a very, very short period of time, we think that it's reaping benefits.
Thank you, Chief.
Yes, absolutely, would agree with you. And so we'll have another meeting, I guess, next Thursday?
Well, what generally transpires, Representative Burke will notify us as to when he would like to have the meeting, but generally you can count on Thursday or Friday.
Okay. Keep my calendar open.
Yes.
Okay, then, with that, I'll open up any comments or questions from the audience. Yes, Mr. Borai.
Only take a minute. Gene, it's me. Rick, thanks for explaining what's going to happen on the 23rd. I'd just like to ask the board one question. There was a notice sent out to about 30 people in the vicinity of CarVision, letting them know that the flashing sign will be coming up. Now, I don't know any way of getting to those people, and I was just wondering if it's possible that you can go on our website and put down that the CarVision request for a continuance will be held on the 27th. It'll save the township money sending letters out, and possibility, not everybody looks at the movie here. So
Good idea.
We'll
do it.
Just an idea, and possibly maybe and put it on the board out there too, because I did get calls from people, and listen, I'm not stepping on anybody on the board of the zoning board's feet. I don't want to get the chairman or vice chairman mad at me, but it's just a request because another zoning member sitting in the back there also. So it's just something to save the township money and just an idea. Thank you.
Thank you, Tom. Anything else from the audience? Okay, with that, I think we're about done here. Call for the adjournment of the meeting.
Motion to adjourn.
Motion, do we have a second? Second. Motion and a second. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? No. Good night. See you next February.